Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first in a series of 3 webinars on the Interstate Passport Mapping Pilot. I am Kate Springsteen, Project Coordinator of Member and Education Services for the Interstate Passport. In this webinar, along with all of our webinars in this series, is being recorded and will be made available at the URL that's listed on the PowerPoint slide right now. And it will be made available by tomorrow, August 26th. If you have questions throughout the webinar, please type your question into the question box on the GoToWebinar panel and it will be brought to the presenter's attention. Following this webinar, I will be sending out an email with information on where to find the recording of this webinar, as well as a link to a survey which we would very much appreciate if you would fill out. So this series is designed to tell you about the Interstate Passport Mapping Pilot. In today's session, we'll give you a general overview of the pilot project, including the participants and their roles, how the pilot is being approached, faculty workload, uploading assignments and artifacts, and other resources and reports. Subsequent webinars will give you a more detailed look at uploading and scoring assignments and student artifacts. I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Robert Turner, who has led the faculty work from multiple institutions and states in the development of the Passport Learning Outcomes and Proficiency criteria since the project's inception as a grassroots initiative in 2011. Bob is retired from the Oregon University system, where he served as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Strategies after a long career as a biology professor at Western Oregon University. Welcome, Bob.
Kate, thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everybody to the webinar. I hope that this proves to be informative and that you will not hesitate to ask questions as we go along. As Kate indicated, this webinar covers the mapping pilot project of the Interstate Passport. During this webinar, I'll provide an overview of the passport. I will talk about some specifics about the pilot project, the participants and their roles, the benefits of the pilot to participating faculty, the scope and design of the mapping pilot, and point out that there is a 2-stage approach to this pilot. One involves de-identified assignments and another de-identified student artifacts. We'll take a look at the workload that faculty are incurring as they go through this scoring exercise and make a few comments about uploading and scoring de-identified materials to Taskstream. And finally, we'll look at resources, reports, and the timetable for this particular project. So the Interstate Passport Initiative has the goal of reducing the unnecessary repetition of academic work after students transfer. It is our expectation that this will improve graduation rates, shorten time to degree, and enable students to save money. We are also very interested in keeping a focus on quality. So we hope to ensure quality at the same time that we're streamlining a path to graduation. The Interstate Passport has several components. The first is confining the passport to particular features or a particular part of a student's undergraduate education. The passport is by design confined to lower division general education, LDGE, and within lower division education there are several areas that have been developed by a combination of pilot state facilitators, there being one of those per participating state, and passport staff. For each of those areas, a set of learning outcomes has been developed by teams of faculty drawn from institutions across several states. Multi-state teams of faculty have also developed for each of the learning outcomes a set of transfer level proficiency criteria. In order to participate in the faculty, it's necessary for faculty at each institution to develop a passport block, a set of learning experiences that address all of the passport learning outcomes. A fifth component of the passport is a tracking system. Yes, we will see the tracking system will keep track of student academic progress, and this has been developed by registrars and institutional researchers. And I would like to emphasize the fact that the parts of the passport have been developed and are the product of the work of faculty and registrars who actually do the work on the ground with respect to presenting learning outcomes, evaluating student success, and keeping track of student academic progress. So it's important that we emphasize that the passport has been developed by the people that do the work on the ground. In order to become a passport institution, it's necessary for each institution to complete an application and a memorandum of agreement that that says that the institution will remain in the passport program for a period of at least 5 years. And finally, there's a passport review board, and this consists of one passport state facilitator from each participating state. This body is involved in maintaining and facilitating and overseeing the operation and the quality of the passport as an educational experience. Let us now turn to item 1, the lower division. Oh, I apologize. Funding has been provided for the passport by the Carnegie Corporation, the Gates Foundation, Lumina Foundation, and a First in the World grant from the Department of Education. The first area, the first piece of the passport is lower division general education areas. These have been developed based on the LEAP essential learning outcomes of the AAC&U, and also by a piece of research done by WICHE's staff that determined the lower division general education academic areas that are common across the WICHE states. The first portion of the passport developed learning outcomes and proficiency criteria for 3 foundational skill areas of oral communication, written communication, and quantitative literacy. The next phase of the passport developed learning outcomes and proficiency criteria for 4 additional areas, in which the student learns concepts in areas of creative expression, natural science, human cultures, human society, and the individual. And finally, there are 2 cross-cutting areas that skills that cut across academic disciplines. These are critical thinking and teamwork and value systems. And again, learning outcomes and proficiency criteria have been established by faculty teams working together to develop those outcomes and proficiency criteria. And let's now take a look at illustrations of the relationship between learning outcomes and proficiency criteria in one of these areas, that being critical thinking. So in the area of critical thinking, we'll look at an example of a PLO and a PC, again developed by multi-state teams of faculty for each of the lower division general education areas. The passport learning outcome outcomes in critical thinking consists of several statements, and the learning outcomes are all statements of what a student must know and or be able to do in order to attain proficiency in each of these features within an area. The proficiency criteria, on the other hand, are statements of assignments that currently are used by faculty to enable students to show that they have developed and accomplished the transfer level proficiency with each of the passport learning outcomes. An illustration of a passport learning outcome in critical thinking. There are several different portions to the critical thinking area, one of those being problem setting. And the learning outcome for problem setting is that the student becomes able to identify a problem or a question and its component parts. That is a learning outcome that every passport student needs to become proficient with. A proficiency criterion is an assignment, a specific assignment that addresses that particular learning outcome. In this case, the illustration is an assignment from a business ethics, a business class, in which an instructor has chosen to have the students complete a case study of business ethics in which the student identifies decisions that corporations make about their production of snack foods made with fats. So that's the difference, or the relationship between learning outcomes and proficiency criteria. Let's now look at the fourth component of the passport, and that is the passport block. The passport block is derived from learning outcomes, but it's unique to each institution. In the area of critical thinking, you see listed down the left side several different features of the critical thinking area: problem setting, recognizing assumptions, etc. And in the central column, you have the learning outcomes, what the student needs to learn for each of these, in each of these areas. The right-hand column is the passport block, and this is a set of courses or other learning opportunities that faculty at each institution uniquely design or use to bring the students to proficiency with the learning outcomes. And it's possible to conceptualize the passport block as a cardboard box. That cardboard box for every passport institution contains, let's say, 9 paper bags. Each paper bag represents one of the areas: creative expression, science in the individual, natural science, critical thinking. So there's one paper bag for each of the areas, and written on the outside of each paper bag for every institution is the set of passport learning outcomes. And the paper bags are the same for every institution. However, when it comes to filling out the passport block, the faculty at each institution choose their own ways that they bring the students to proficiency with those learning outcomes. So the arrows here indicate learning outcomes or learning experiences that faculty at the red institution have used to bring the students to proficiency. The faculty at the blue institutions may use a different set of learning experiences to bring the students to proficiency, but they're addressing the same learning outcomes. So when a student completes a lower division GE with the learning outcome, with the experiences at a sending institution, that student's passport block box is sealed. The student has accomplished proficiency with those learning outcomes using the devices employed by the faculty at the red institution. The student then transfers to the blue institution and brings with him or her the sealed box, and the receiving institution does not open up the red box, and it does not require the student to take any of the courses or learning experiences that the blue institution has put in their passport block in order to accomplish the learning outcomes for lower division general education. So again, as a I want to now move on to the quality assurance pieces of the passport mapping pilot. The passport mapping pilot addresses one of the quality assurance pieces of the passport. The passport has 5 different quality assurance pieces. One is that for every course the student takes, the student must complete the course with a minimum grade of C. There is also an academic progress tracking piece. After students transfer, their progress is tracked for 2 terms, and that tracking is automated and conducted by the National Student Clearinghouse. The current study is a pilot study that maps critical assignments to passport learning outcomes. We'll come back to that in just a minute. There also is an evaluation research study that's going to be conducted by a branch of Rutgers University, and they are going to they are going to treat the Passport Initiative as a research initiative, and they will be conducting analyses of the efficacy of the passport with respect to students, student surveys, time to degree, in addition to the tracking that is involved in quality assurance piece number 2. And finally, the Passport Review Board constantly monitors the effectiveness of the passport. So the topic of today's webinar is this 3rd quality assurance piece. mapping critical assignments to the Passport learning outcomes. And it is, as we will see, is going to be carried out by faculty in Colorado, Montana, New Mexico, and NCHEMS, Peter Ewell at NCHEMS. So again, a refresher. The Passport block consists of sets of courses or other learning opportunities unique to each institution and designed by the faculty at each institution. This pilot project looks at the extent to which the courses and learning opportunities in the right-hand column actually match the learning outcomes that are in the middle column. So the Passport Mapping Pilot has as its primary goal determining how well the assignments that are now in use by faculty actually map to the learning outcomes. Secondary goals that will come out of this process are that faculty will be able to attend to and to learn best practices and obstacles to mapping exercises. And we also expect that this project, this pilot, is going to be testing the use of a tool that faculty may use in the future as a basis for selecting courses to put in their Passport blocks. So what does this mapping pilot look like? Who's participating? Well, the Western Interstate Commission on Higher Education is providing structure and process, organization, facilitation, and coordination. NCHEMS is providing experience with the mapping process. They're providing expertise and guidance. They have developed a couple of rubrics, and they will be writing reports on the pilot, as we will see toward the end of this webinar. Taskstream is a company that is putting together a digital scoring and reporting platform so that all of the scoring results the faculty will enter into the Taskstream platform, and out of that will come analysis of the mapping and reports will be generated. Faculty at the partner institutions are going to be contributing assignments, student artifacts, doing the scoring, and providing an evaluation of the process of this pilot. As I mentioned earlier, Colorado, New Mexico, and Montana are the states in which participating institutions are located. Those institutions are shown in this graphic. The participants consist in each state of a pilot state facilitator. This is an individual who facilitates the conversations between the states and between the institutions in the state and Passport staff. They are Ian McGillivray in Colorado, Elizabeth Turnus in Montana, and Diane Evans Pryor at New Mexico. Each of the institutions that are participating has a mapping specialist that is responsible for coordinating the work of the faculty at their institutions. And you can see the names of those individuals listed here: Kim Black, Sarah Goodrum, Ross Perkins, Kim Reiser, Leanne Frost, David Smith, and Colleen Lynch. And finally, from each of these schools, 2 faculty have been identified in each of the 4 lower division general education areas that the pilot is going to examine. The pilot is not going to be covering all 9 of the lower division GE areas. It will only be covering 4 of those 9. So what are the benefits to participating faculty of their work in this pilot project? Well, the first is very good exercise in professional development. That is understanding the assignments, the student work from other institutions as well as their own institutions that are being used to assess competency and proficiency with the learning outcomes. And also faculty will come to understand good practices in selecting courses and assignments that determine competence. At the institutional level, this project models a process that might be used for coming to concordance on exemplary practices, and will lend some credibility through exposure to the process on the part of others. And finally, an optional benefit to participating faculty is that faculty might allow their mapping specialists to see the results of scoring of their individual assignments and student artifacts, and they could distribute these to, and the PMS might distribute those to the faculty members that choose to request this information. So the scope and design of the pilot project, of this pilot, is as follows. As I mentioned, only 4 of the lower division GE areas are going to be covered: written communication, quantitative literacy, natural science, and critical thinking. The faculty, as I also indicated earlier, consist of 2 faculty at each institution in each of the above 4 areas. These faculty have been identified by each of their mapping specialists already. Each of these faculty will work only in the areas for which they have been selected or opted to participate. So it's not the case that a faculty member might be evaluating or doing mapping in a couple of areas, written communication and natural science, even though there may be an assignment that might be applicable to the learning outcomes in each of those areas. The faculty is going to confine their work just to the area that for which they've been chosen. And they will select assignments that they're going to map to the learning outcomes, and they will also select student artifacts that are going to be mapped to the selected learning outcomes in each of those 4 areas. The process is that each institution's faculty, again, in their own area, will score their own de-identified assignments and student artifacts. They will then score de-identified assignments and student artifacts from the 5 other institutions. This will result in each of these assignments and artifacts being scored by 5 faculty for a total of 10 faculty at the other 5, by 5 faculty at their own institution, and a total of 10 faculty at the other 5 institutions. So each assignment and artifact is going to be scored by multiple faculty. And the identity of the institution or the faculty member doing a particular scoring exercise will not be made known. There is a 2-stage process that is going to be used to approach this work. The first stage works on the de-identified student assignments. Again, each faculty working in, I guess I've said that before, that each faculty is working in their own area. I emphasize this because it is a question that has been raised in some of our conversations. The faculty member will select summative assignments. Optimally, these summative assignments will address multiple Passport learning outcomes, and there's a resource that has been developed by Peter Ewell at NCHEMS that is entitled Some Guidance in Selecting Assignments and Associated Student Artifacts. This resource has been made available already at a training session for the Passport mapping specialists. The assignments will be de-identified. This will be done by the individual institution, and each faculty will contribute a maximum of 5 assignments. If there is a case in which it requires multiple assignments to make sure that all of the learning outcomes in an area are being addressed, the number of assignments that will be contributed by any one faculty has a maximum, and that is 5. The assignments must cover all of the selected PLOs, and in the case of multiple section courses, it may be that while there are 5 assignments being contributed, they may come from different faculty. Each faculty is going to score 30 assignments. Now we're focused just on the assignments that faculty give to the students to have the students demonstrate proficiency with the learning outcome. Each faculty member is going to score 5 assignments from their school within their area. Of course, if there are fewer assignments than that have been generated for their school and area, then that's the number of assignments that will be scored. So a maximum of 5 assignments from their school. They're then going to score 5 assignments from each of the other 5 schools in their area. Remember that each faculty member is going to contribute up to 5 assignments. There are 2 faculty members per area. That means a total of 10 assignments will be contributed in each area from each school, 10 assignments as a maximum. So each faculty member is going to be scoring 5 assignments from their school and 5 from each of the other schools for a total of 30 assignments. This scoring and mapping will be completed by the end of the fall term of 2016. After the end of fall term 2016, the faculty will be reporting their results into the Taskstream platform, and Taskstream and NCHEMS are going to report out the top 2 assignments in each area from each school, and those are the assignments from which student artifacts will be drawn. So although 5 assignments might be contributed by each faculty member for a total of 10 in each area from each school, only the top 2 assignments in each area from each school will be the assignments for which student artifacts are selected. So that's a total of 12 assignments for each area, 2 from each of 6 schools. For this faculty assignment selection or evaluation process, NCHEMS has developed a rubric, and the rubric consists of 2 components: a set of attributes for the assignment and 4 levels of evaluation for each attribute. The first attribute is that the assignment should be demonstrably related to one of the PLOs. A second attribute is that it must clearly describe what the student is to do. Clearly confusing assignments are not going to be particularly effective. A third attribute is that the assignment must provide guidance about the form or the medium of the assignment and how detailed the student must be. And there's an illustration there, 5-page written essay with at least 3 supporting examples. So it must provide clear guidance, and the instructions are to be clear enough that they're not susceptible to misunderstanding by the student. So each of these attributes is going to be scored at one of the following levels: either unable to judge the extent to which the assignment addresses the indicated attribute, yes, the assignment does address this particular attribute, or the assignment somewhat addresses that attribute, or it doesn't address that attribute at all. So these are the rubrics that are going to be used for assignment mapping. Let's now turn our attention to the second of the 2 stages, and that has to do with the de-identified student artifacts. Again, faculty working only in their area, in the area in which they have agreed to work. So during the course of the fall term, remember during fall term 2016, each faculty member is picking out 5 assignments as a maximum to contribute. During the fall term, the faculty member will save 15 student artifacts for each of those assignments. Those are to be randomly selected from each of the chosen assignments. And again, the same resource in some guidance in selecting assignments and associated student artifacts is available to the faculty for their use. Those student artifacts will be uploaded to Taskstream, but only those 15 student artifacts that come from the 2 top-rated assignments. So during the term, the faculty member will randomly select 15 artifacts for each of a maximum of 5 assignments and set those artifacts aside. After Taskstream has had the opportunity to report out the top 2 assignments from each institution, the faculty member will then go to, if they have 1 or 2 of those top-rated assignments, they'll go to that assignment and pull out the student artifacts that they've selected and upload those student artifacts to Taskstream. These student artifacts, as were the assignments, will be de-identified by the institution. So the faculty contributes from their area 15 artifacts for each of the top 2 assignments if one of their assignments or both of their assignments are among the top 2. So the total faculty contribution is going to be 30 assignments per institution in each area. 6 institutions means that a total of 180 total student artifacts will be available for mapping. The faculty is going to score, each faculty member will score 15 assignments for each of the 6 institutions. So each faculty member will score a total of 90, that is half of the total student artifacts. And the time limit for completing this faculty work is the end of the spring 2017 term. But just as with the assignments, the NCHEMS has developed a student artifact rubric. So proficiency with each PLO is going to be scored against a single scoring statement. And let's look at an illustration of one of those, a couple of those scoring statements. These illustrations come from quantitative literacy for, PLOs. So for the PLO of computational skills, the scoring statement for the student artifact is that the student demonstrates proficiency with arithmetic and computational skills. So the artifacts, the student work elicited by the assignment, if in the PLO for computational skills, will be mapped against this scoring statement. A second illustration is for the PLO of communication of quantitative arguments. And the scoring statement there that will be used for all assignments from all 6 institutions is that the student that should be correctly, not correctively, correctly and appropriately converts products and conclusions from words to math notation and graphics and reverse, illustrating that the student is proficient with communicating quantitative arguments. So for each of these scoring statements, there are 4 levels that against which the student artifacts will be judged. They'll be judged, and one of these scores applied to each student artifact. Either the artifact is not applicable or it's not possible to judge the extent to which the artifact relates to the scoring statement, or the relationship of the student artifact will be below the transfer proficiency for that particular scoring statement, or at transfer level proficiency or above transfer level proficiency. So we have for both the assignments and for the student artifacts a set of rubrics that have been developed by NCHEMS that will be employed by all of the faculty at all 6 institutions. So let's summarize now the faculty scoring workload. Each faculty member is going to contribute up to 5 assignments and a total of 15 student artifacts per assignment if the faculty member's assignment is selected as one of the top 2, is mapped as one of the top 2 from their institution for a particular learning outcome. And each faculty member will score a maximum of 30 assignments, 5 from each institution, and a total of 90 student artifacts, 15 from each of these 6 institutions, for a total of 120 items. So that will be 30 assignments and 90 student artifacts that will be scored by each faculty member. So during the process of completing this work, the materials will be uploaded and scored using Taskstream as a platform for this uploading and scoring. So the individual assignments and the artifacts will be uploaded by either the mapping specialist at the institution or by the faculty, their choice. Each faculty will be provided with a private account number, and each of the items will be given an identifying number, and each item will be made accessible for scoring by each of the institutions. And de-identifying the materials is, as we indicated earlier, something that will be done at the institutional level. As the second bullet down, the big bullet, says in fact, that participants are going to be responsible for de-identifying their campus material. So this is just a very extremely superficial overview of the use of the Taskstream platform in this particular pilot. As Kate mentioned at the beginning, and we'll repeat in a slide at the end, toward the end of this webinar, there will be additional webinars that will provide much more detail about the use of Taskstream. There are a number of resources that are available for faculty and for the mapping specialists. These include the item that I have referenced a couple of times, the guidance in selecting assignments and associated student artifacts, the webinar for uploading and scoring assignments, and the webinar for uploading and scoring student artifacts. And again, all of the webinars for this particular project are being recorded and are available at the URL that was indicated at the beginning of the presentation. What sorts of results are going to be reported by NCHEMS? Well, the results are going to be compiled from faculty self-scoring reports, the scoring results by faculty from all institutions, and NCHEMS will be scoring samples of assignments and student artifacts. So the self-scoring refers to the work that I've already mentioned that faculty will do when they score assignments and artifacts from their own institution. They're also going to be scoring artifacts and assignments from all the other institutions. And in addition, NCHEMS is going to bring their expertise and experience to scoring a sample of the assignments and the student artifacts. These results will be put together into several reports by NCHEMS. One will be an institutional report. This will be customized for each institution for their internal use. An overall report will be written and delivered orally to the Passport Review Board by Peter Ewell. And that report to the Passport Review Board will include recommendations from NCHEMS and from the faculty that participated in this exercise on the efficacy of a mapping process like this or similar to this, and the potential use of such a mapping tool to be made available on a voluntary basis to all Passport institutions, so that our expectation is that we will not only receive information on the alignment or mapping of assignments and artifacts to particular learning outcomes, we will also receive information on the utility of this process and ways in which this process worked well and in which the process might be altered to work better, and whether or not it seems that this is something that should be a part of the Passport made available to all Passport institutions. So that is a rundown on an overview of the pilot, the Passport Mapping Pilot, and I'm going to spend just a few minutes now reinforcing the timetable and the way the pieces of this project are coming together. And I neglected to mention that there is an optional oral report for the for the staff at any institution should they decide to receive it from Peter Ewell or NCHEMS. So turning to the timetable. During the spring and by the end of September of 2016, the pilot state facilitators and the mapping specialists have learned about the Passport and about the mapping pilot. 2 faculty for each school in each area have been selected to participate, 8 faculty from each school. Faculty will work within their own area. They've reviewed the passport learning outcomes, and they've identified courses that would be included in their passport block. Remember, it's those courses that might be in the passport block from which assignments and student artifacts are going to be selected to be mapped against the learning outcomes, because the goal is to assess the quality of the construction of the passport block by faculty with respect to the extent to which the courses or other learning experiences actually address the consensus learning outcomes. The mapping specialists have received training in scoring the assignments and artifacts and in using Taskstream. So we are now very close to September of 2016, and between September of 2016 and December 15th, the end of this fall term, the mapping specialists are going to conduct training for their faculty at their institution on scoring assignments and using Taskstream. They'll query the faculty and advise passport staff about what the participating faculty would like to receive from this mapping pilot. We recognize that the faculty are putting in a fair amount, that this is an effort and requires some work on their part, and we would like to make sure that the faculty are getting maximum benefit out of this exercise. So we're asking for feedback from the faculty through the mapping specialist on the information that the faculty would like to receive. During this fall term, each of 2 faculty only in their area are going to select 5 assignments that cumulatively address all PLOs, up to 5 assignments. They're going to score the assignments from their area and school, and this means up to 5 per faculty. And they're going to save 15 randomly selected student artifacts from each of their 5 assignments. So again, select 5 assignments, save 15 randomly selected artifacts from each of their 5 assignments, and score the assignments for their area and school. They will then score half of their area's assignments from each of the other 5 other schools. So by December 15th, the faculty will have scored the assignments and for the 30 assignments that they will each be scoring. Then starting in January, by middle of January of 2017, Taskstream and NCHEMS will have used the scoring information from the faculty to identify the 2 assignments per area from each school that best mapped to the passport learning outcomes. So this results in 12 assignments per area, 2 from each school. During the month between January 15th and February 15th, the faculty and the mapping specialists are going to upload the 15 student artifacts for each of the 2 identified assignments. So at each institution there will be a total of 30 artifacts that will be uploaded per area, and for all 6 institutions that means 180 artifacts in each area. Then between February 15th and June 1st of 2017, again working only in their own area, the faculty will score 15 artifacts from each of the 6 schools. So a total of 90 artifacts to be scored by each faculty member. And then between the end of spring term of 2017 and the 1st of October of 2017, Peter Ewell from NCHEMS is going to be scoring a selection of the student artifacts, the same ones that the faculty have been scoring, and is going to write a passport mapping pilot report and make the necessary presentations. So having gone through the timeline now, I hope that this has and the work that is to be accomplished, I hope this has provided a coherent and complete description of the passport mapping project. And at this time, I would ask if there are any questions from any of you that are on this webinar. Okay, have you received any questions?
I have not received any questions yet, but let's wait a minute or two to see if we get any before we depart.
Okay, fine with me. Would welcome any questions, actually. Well, Kate, I guess that we're not getting any questions generated, and I would like to close the webinar by reminding people of what Kate has already mentioned to you, that this is a series of webinars on the Interstate Passport Mapping Pilot. This is the first of 3. There will be another one. The second one will be at 10 o'clock in the morning on September 6th, and this will be presented by Taskstream and will involve a description of uploading and scoring the assignments, that is the work that the faculty needs to complete by the end of fall term 2016. And the third webinar, which has yet to be developed and its time has yet to be determined, will be on the work that this faculty should complete, it needs to complete during the spring term of 2017, that deals with uploading and scoring student artifacts. And though there were no questions, I want to leave you with the opportunity to contact us if you have any questions in the future or any advice about this mapping project or anything having to do with the Passport initiative. I give you 3 individuals: Pat Shea, who is the Director of Academic Leadership Initiatives at WICHE, myself, and she is the project lead, the primary, the lead on the Passport project, the principal investigator. I have been retained as a consultant, and my official title is Passport State Coordinator. And Kate Springsteen, whose voice you've heard at the beginning of the webinar and just a few minutes ago, is facilitating the work on the mapping project, and in addition to other jobs that she fulfills at WICHE on behalf of the Passport. So unless there are additional comments from any of the attendees, or Kate, if you have anything you would like to add.
Well, thanks for the great webinar, Bob, and thank you for everybody who was attending. Like I said at the beginning, I will be sending out an email where you can find a link for this recorded webinar and a link for a survey, which we would very much appreciate if you would fill out.
And I would also like to thank everybody who attended today, and also express my thanks to all of those who access the webinar, the recorded version of the webinar in the future. Thanks for your interest in the Passport Mapping Pilot. And good afternoon. Hope you have an enjoyable afternoon.